Approximately 20% of Riverside's population is made up of immigrant and international students combined. Our group had meetings about our social campaign, our topic, our question, and more. Overall, we decided to do immigration because it affects a lot of students at Riverside, and it would have a bigger impact if we talk about that topic. We discussed a lot of different sources, such as To Kill a Mockingbird, Inside Out and Back Again, as well as watching TED Talks and listening to people's stories from outside the school. Our question is, what are some struggles immigrants go through, and how can we help?
For our social justice campaign, we created a Facebook page and group so a lot of international and immigrant students could connect with each other, because we did notice that a lot of them do have Facebook accounts and they use it pretty regularly. And we just found it easier because we would get notifications automatically, so then we could respond to them. We could share their stories if they hadn't sent anything in.
My name is Ilana and I'm from Riga, Latvia.
이름은 이준영이고 나이는 한국 나이로는 17살. 이제 16살. 16살. 작년.
When I first came to Canada, I was about 15 years old. My family and I came from Latvia, but at the time it was part of the Soviet Union. So technically it was Soviet Union.
대한민국 서울. 이제 캐나다라 오면 이제 학교가 끝나는 시간이 3시 반이 더 빨리 갈 수 있고 이제 한국처럼 야간 자율학습이 없어서 그래서 좋아하지.
Okay.
Well, when I came I was 15, so it was from the eyes of a teenage girl. But the first huge difference was shopping, lots of food, no huge lineups, everything's available. You can speak freely. I'm not afraid to speak up because, as you know, Russia was communist and socialist, so you cannot have a freedom of speech. Well, immigrating in general, now that I think back on it, was one of the hardest things to go through because you're leaving everybody behind, your friends, your family. So it was super hard. Plus, you don't speak the language, and when we came, we spoke no English whatsoever. Going to a new school was really, really hard.
일단 제일 어려운 건 영어가 안 되니까 어딜 가든 영어를 써야 되는데 그게 안 돼서 좀 많이 힘들었어요. 그러면 이제 뭘 사러 갔을 때 마트에 뭔가를 처음 왔을 때는 영어를 잘 못하니까 이제 뭐 물어보는데 못 알아들어서 그때 좀 힘들었어요.
Well, about 3 years. It took about a year and a half to start speaking the language, and about 3 years to get used to the culture in general. The way people dress, talk, just daily life is, different. So about 3 years.
이제 작년 6월에 왔는데 좀 편해지기 시작한 건 한 10월이나 11월 그쯤부터 학교를 다니면 계속 영어를 쓰니까 이제 그게 좀 편해져가지고 적응이 됐어요.
Well, it had its pluses and minuses. Pluses were that all the teachers were super nice. They did everything to help out, amazingly nice, welcoming. The kids, on the other hand, not so much, especially at the beginning. Found lots of people didn't want to take the time to get to know you, to bother speaking to you because they know that you don't really speak English that well. Yeah, so good and bad.
됐는데 아까 말했다시피 좀 영어를 써야 되니까 그게 제일 컸던 것 같아요. 긴장된 게.
Another hard thing for me, and I think for many other children of people who immigrate, is watching your parents who also don't speak the language and lost sometimes pretty good jobs to coming to a new country and starting from zero. When we came, we had no money, zero money. and we had 2 pieces of luggage. That's it. So at 40, they had to start their lives all over again, re-educate, and that was also like one of the hardest things to go through.
도움이 된 거는 일단 부모님이랑 같이 와서 이제 부모님이 좀 옆에서 도와주시고 그러니까 그게 제일 도움이 됐어요.
I think if your peers would take more time to get to know someone who just came from another country, even though it could be not as fun to struggle with the language, but just a simple offer of friendship like would have helped a lot.
After 3 months in a refugee camp, we landed in Melbourne. And the next piece of the jigsaw is about 4 women across 3 generations, shaping a new life together. We settled in Footscray, a working-class suburb whose demographic is layers of immigrants. Unlike the settled middle-class suburbs whose existence I was oblivious of, there was no sense of entitlement in Footscray. The smells from shop doors were from the rest of the world, and the snippets of halting English were exchanged between people who had one thing in common. They were starting again.
By the time Tan immigrated to Australia, she was around 4 to 5 years old and was already aware of what life would be like as an immigrant in a country where the language she spoke wasn't the first language in this new country. Language barriers between people can affect relationships with others outside of one's community, but also showing that for people to start over in a new place, one must be willing to integrate with the majority culture.
And there were rare but searing chants of slit eye and the occasional graffiti, Asian go home. Go home to where? Something stiffened inside me. There was a gathering of resolve and a quiet voice saying, I will bypass you.
The name of book which I'm going to explain is To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee. This book is a story about a one-Whitens Caucasian lawyer claimed to defend Tom Robinson, who is suspected of raping the white woman. Tom was kind-hearted and couldn't ignore other people's difficulties, so he just tried to help the poor white woman. But he is held up by the white woman's father. In fact, Tom never tried to rape the white woman, and also there are no any evidence, but the other people believe that Tom is the criminal only because he is the black people. In those days, the black people were received very serious racism by white people, so finally, despite the white lawyers a lot of effort, judge gave the guilty verdict to Tom and he was gunned down by the people. This book shows a discrimination of past America, and many people still suffer many difficulties all around the world because of their skin color, difference of culture, and also language barrier. Even if the people doesn't discriminate against as much as the time, immigrant children could be in a tricky situation like this. So if we find out some people suffer difficulties, then we must give a helping hand to them as a lawyer who defended to Tom.
House on Mango Street, written by Sandra Cisneros, is a fictional novel that illustrates the reality of poverty, sexism, and racism around our community through a Hispanic American girl, Esperanza. The protagonist lives on Mango Street, which is in a predominantly Latino part of Chicago. The story is narrated by Esperanza, who is an observer of her neighbors. Mamacita, the woman who lives across the street, refuses to learn English, and so she never leaves her apartment. Rafaela, another neighbor, is also stuck in her apartment because her husband locks her up whenever he goes out. Esperanza herself always thinks about her name and appearance and agonize over them. The story ends with Esperanza overcoming others' prejudice against her race. However, the process is hard. Esperanza and neighbors receive criticisms and treated with unfairness all through the story. Sandra Cisneros, the author of House on Mango Street, shared her story of racism with the world as simulating with Esperanza. She said, if she were asked what it is she writes about, she would have to say she writes about those ghosts inside that haunt her. The memory of racism left deep inside here, as well as people around the world. We need to remember that it is not just a story of others.
Some international students have trouble with getting used to the Canadian school system because they're so used to other ways of living. Moving to Canada itself is a big challenge for them. We can help them by providing programs that allows them to experience Canadian cultures.
The answer about other struggles immigrant children face a lot of struggles such as a language barrier, racial discrimination and bullying because basically immigrant children are come from each different culture and also they are using different languages so they need more time to adapt in the new society and culture. So therefore what we can do for help immigrant children is we should take an attitude that understand and respect their culture and give a comfortable time to them to adapt in the new culture and society as a family.
I think one of the biggest things is even if there is like a language barrier and don't always we can't always understand each other because we always talk faster, especially with English. We talk very fast. I have Dina as a partner for this project. I think it's just willing to sit down and just still have conversations with people, because once you sit down with people you kind of forget about those language barriers or how someone's grammar is different from yours, even if you have horrible grammar yourself, and it's just easier to listen to someone because then you can understand them from where they're coming from, whether they're talking about their childhood or how annoying an assignment is. So yeah.
The struggles that immigrant teenagers face are mainly related to making friendships and feeling left out, as well as language barriers would be a big one too. And the way we can help them is by creating connections, and just putting in the effort to talk to them and become friends with them will make such an impact already. It might be difficult because you speak different languages, but it will help them a lot in the long run and give them a smoother transition to Canada.